Hello and welcome to another movie review from MBE. We'd just like to thank you once again for joining us here on this Friday night here on our YouTube channel and of course our Twitch stream. We are going to be reviewing Tumbbad from 2018. John's got a fit of the giggles. I am one of your co-presenters, Stephen John McLaughlin. Our co-host, or main host, is John Christopher Walsh. And our resident Indian and cinematic analyst, I always give you a new title every week, Ruth, Aaron. We're all here, and we're all here talking about Tumbbad, as I said. This film was directed by Rahi Anil Barv and Anand Gandhi, starring the likes of Soham Shah. Yeah, Jyoti Malsh. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. And Anita Date. I'm not going to say the whole cast here because there's some big long names in there, and I probably said some of the minor ones. I don't know, but that was the ones that kind of stood out for me. This film comes in at 1 hour 44 minutes. Probably one of the shortest ones we've done so far on our Indian journey, and this film was rated 8.3 out of 10 on IMDb. IMDb, not V. IMDb. A very high rating for IMDb and a very high rating for our horror films that we've been reviewing over the last 3 weeks. Before I pass it over to you, John, just a few little sort of tidbits, factoids, that's a better word, about this movie that really stood out to me, and I was very surprised, and I'm pretty sure Ruth already knows this, so this is really just for us Westerners' benefits. This movie took 6 years to make. Yeah, that's 6 years.
10 years.
Wow.
Script.
The rain shown in the movie was real, so it took to complete this film 3 years to shoot the monsoon shoot.
That's crazy, isn't it?
That 3 years. That's
3 years.
Wow, that's amazing. It normally takes 3 years tops to make a big production, but just for that monsoon shot. Director Rai Anil Barv wrote the first draft of the movie in 1997 when he was just 18 years old.
So it was actually 11 years.
Pup. That's very impressive for an 18-year-old to write such a... Well, we'll get into it, a very good script. Tumbbad's initial runtime was close to 200 minutes, which was edited down to the running time, which stands at now 1 hour and 44 minutes. That is interesting as well. I'm sure we'll get into that.
Was it 1 hour and 44 minutes, though, Stephen?
Well, it felt like
I think it was about 6 minutes of credits, so I think it was actually an hour and a half.
Could have been.
Also.
Could have been, yeah. If you're just trimming it off with the credits, the end credits, the opening credits as well, John. And another bit that we'll probably get into as well during our production side of things. Background music score was done by Jasper Kidd from Assassin's Creed fame. Now, that's interesting as well, because I know we'll get into, obviously, the score, which I liked. Yeah. But before all that, John is going to take us through this review experience and going to give you a little rundown on how we rate our films.
And throw me under the bus, Stephen, because I'm not even remotely prepared for this. Where the fuck is the graphic?
John, I've been talking for the last 4 minutes.
Yeah.
You've been scratching your butt again.
I've been doing a Yoki Low, sorry if I just put you on a screen. I don't know what I'm doing here. Trying to find the graphic. Yes, I got it. This is how we rate our movies on here. If you've not been aware up to this point that this is amateur hour, then you surely will be aware now. F through A, that's our rating system. Sorry?
Do we not have an E?
What?
A, B, C, D, F?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, we've got an A, yeah.
An E?
An E? No, we've not got an E.
Alright, okay.
No, E's just Steve. F covers shite.
Okay.
F is terrible. D minus for plus average. We don't need an E.
E's for losers.
Do we have an E rating system in schools? I don't think we do. I think we just go A plus through D, and then I think it's F for fail. And that's what if a movie gets an F, it's a fail.
Yeah.
C minus through plus is good. B minus through plus is excellent. A is perfection. I'm not going to do my usual dribble because you've probably seen it before. That's how we grade our movies on here. Wait until the end to see how we actually use that grading system and apply it to Tumbbad. But getting into the actual movie review, look, the story. Right into the story. Because I think Ruth, you says last week, if I'm not wrong, that this was the first time you'd seen this movie as well, your first watching.
Yes, yeah.
So, in terms of where...
I've been wanting to watch it, yeah.
Yeah, in terms of where we're coming into the movie then, we're all in the same boat. I suppose you may have known about it a little bit sooner than us. Perhaps when it was getting released you were aware of it. Obviously us being ignorant Westerners at that point, I didn't know about it. I have been aware of this movie for at least a year though, because when we started reacting, starting with KGF, Bahubali and stuff like that, people were saying react to Tumbbad, react to Tumbbad, react to Tumbbad. It's a very good horror movie. Of course, I don't think we ever did react to it. 'Cause that's what I do. I just completely forget things I ignore because I'm an ignorant bitch. So I was aware of it to some degree. So we're all coming into this fresh. We're probably singing from the same hymn sheet. I think I said that right
Yeah,
there.
you did, yeah.
When you're wearing headphones, sometimes it's weird.
It sounds like you're talking underwater, yeah.
You're talking underwater, yeah. Beyond the sea, Bioshock. But, that was Bioshock was the game, wasn't it? Yeah, wait, I'm getting sidetracked. Doesn't matter. We're singing from the same hymn sheet here when it comes to the first time seeing this movie, what our experience was getting in. The story then, we'll start with the story. Thoughts on the writing, the character development, the way it ebbed and flowed, any themes explored, and the ending. The ending to me, I'll start off a little bit unorthodox here by touching on the ending. The ending was correct for the story being told because it was a story of greed for me. It was all about greed, the worst aspect of humanity, greed, possessiveness. And the main character, I'm trying to find his name, I know it begins with a V. Vinayak, I think, was the main character. He grew up, he was the adult. He was also getting in and getting these coins. We didn't know how he was obtaining them. He was a bit of a tragic figure for me. I'll get into him though more later, I'm sure we'll all get into him more later. But he was probably the worst of humanity in the sense that he was greedy. And he says it's the only quality I've got at one point in the movie. I'm greedy. That's what the whole story was about. So for me, it made sense for him to bite the bullet at the end. Spoiler alert, incident. This will be a spoiler movie review. If you ain't seen this movie, step away. It was correct for him to bite the bullet, but something about the ending, for me, I was slightly disappointed with. I was disappointed that the little kid didn't grab the money. The loincloth, I think it was. Take that money. He's dying anyway. Just take it. It's there. Take it. And that's you made for life. But I think that was the whole point of the story, to be fair. I'm not going to nitpick. That was the whole point of the story. It was about greed and not being greedy. The kid had made the right decision. He wasn't greedy. That was the whole point. I was trying to tell a story. But I enjoyed this movie in terms of writing. I thought the story was very well written. It was taut, to use a fancy pants reviewing word. Short, sweet, tight, perfect, succinct. I thought the writing was pretty damn good, as you'd expect from a guy that's had his hands on this script for 7 years, I think, 10 years, maybe more. I think he says he wrote it when he was 18, 11 years. Yeah. Because it came out 2018.
Now? Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
it was 2007, you said. So is that right? 11 years? 1997. So it was 20?
1999 to 2010, I think.
Oh yeah. So it was about 10 years. He said he'd expect him to have honed that and created something pretty special with the story. I thought the story flowed well. It was a perfect little horror movie for me. Characters didn't require much development really, because it wasn't that kind of movie. You weren't developing the characters. Maybe the son get developed a little bit. Vinayak wasn't to be developed in this movie. He was a fully rounded character when we met him, and we also get the backstory at the start. I'm going to talk the arse off this, so I'm going to pass it over to Ruth just now and ask you, what was your thoughts on the story? I don't want to dominate this review. What did you make of the writing, the way it flowed, the development?
Yeah, no, I thought it was a very original story. I thought, very well written. I like the way it was written. I mean, I think it was like he got the actual story written down in, I think, within 8 months itself. But it's just that it took a while before they actually made the movie, I suppose. And of course, the actual script would have probably taken a bit more time to write out the screenplay and stuff. Yeah. But I thought, it was a very interesting story, very original. I found it to be very haunting. It wasn't like an out horror movie to me in that sense. It was more this kind of chilling, creepy, haunting tale, and
it was a fantasy kind of movie.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like based on mythology, in a way that kind of like based on legend. I guess for me, I thought it was like very good storytelling. Yeah, so I thought it was an interesting story. It was very unique and original. It gave me vibes of Lord of the Rings with the scenes with Gollum in the so it reminded me of those vibes a little bit, and it was more spine chilling rather than out horror kind of thing. Yeah.
Stephen, what was your thoughts on this story? What was your thoughts on the way it was written? the way it ebbed and flowed, the way it was edited together, if you'd like. We can speak about that later in technical, but what was your thoughts on the story, the way they handled it, developed the characters, the ending?
Overall, I like the film. I need to put that out there right away, because what I'm about to say, it might sound like I don't, but I don't think main character developed that much in the movie.
Stephen, that says
it
that.
was very consistent from start to finish. It was a very easily seductive, seduced, tempted, all these themes that were in the film. He fell for Vignac, I think his name was. Now,
Vignac, yeah.
Is that a criticism for him staying the same? Probably not, because a leopard doesn't change its spots, and that's the way I look at this guy. And I think if he had a change at heart halfway through the film, I think I would have been more annoyed if his sort of characteristics had changed, he became a better person, etc, etc. I think it was very brave of the director and the writer to make sure that the character stayed consistent throughout. He was a very selfish man. He had a mistress, didn't he? In his own house with his wife.
Felt for his wife.
Even as a younger kid, I thought he was a bit of an a-hole. I didn't like the kid at all. I would have pushed him into the river.
See, that was X-Files.
When the mother did that, I was going, just push him in, Mum, push him in. But she said something as well that probably stuck with him all his life about, I wish it was you, it was dead, rather than your brother. That was quite shocking as well. I felt his brother falling off that wall and cracking his head like Humpty Dumpty. It definitely was, and it came from nowhere right at the start of the movie, and it kind of set the tone for the rest of the movie as well. You get is it the grandmother that was cursed?
The grandmother was a tree at one point,
yeah, she was a tree. She turned into a tree.
A
tree came through her.
I am a tree. Yeah. I am a tree on YouTube.
That was one of the things that I was... You talk about maybe disappointing, you said, John, about the ending in terms of that. I thought it was more unsatisfactory. Is that a word? As now. I just wasn't satisfied with the ending in that sense. That I was hoping that Vignac would become cursed like the grandmother, rather than die, burnt to death or whatever it was that happened to him. We assume that's what happened to him anyway. But the themes and the feels to this film wasn't an out-and-out horror to me. It was more... It was like an X-Files episode, John. I think you're absolutely right. That Monster of the Week vibe to it.
It's exactly what it was like.
Had the creepiness to it,
exactly.
And it had there was some funny moments. I thought it was funny anyway. They thought they'd got round the whole buying time with this sort of creature that lived down that hole by taking more food. What was it? A dough man or something? A dough doll? I think it was.
It was dough man.
By taking more dolls with them, but what that did was it made more of these demons.
Stephen, that ending
creeped me out.
For them,
the way they were moving about. I know we'll talk about visual effects. I was very impressed.
Very impressive visual effects in this movie.
But for me, I think as far as the story went, Ruth mentioned that the mythology was the big part of the interest in this film for me from the very beginning. I felt the first 20 minutes of this film really set the tone, and I like when they do that in films, and you're absolutely right, Ruth. I was getting vibes of Golem as well, but also the little guy from The Mummy, Benny.
Yeah,
I think he get entombed at the very end because of his greed. He couldn't run fast because he was carrying so much weight and gold. And that was his downfall, and that was the way I saw Vignac in this film as well. The
Brendan Fraser character, Stephen.
O'Connell.
Yeah. Looks like we have looks like we have all the horses.
Yeah, it's a good film. I've not seen it in years, John.
Mummy was brilliant.
But I did have that vibe to it. It had that kind of Mummy vibe to it as well.
Stephen, look, and just the way that it flowed for me, it was 2 hours. 2 hours. What am I talking about? An hour and 44 minutes long. As I said, when you were mentioning the running time, though, for me it was more an hour 35. Yeah, you factor in the actual start, the end credits. It was closer to an hour and a half. I said last week, I think that's the perfect time. An hour and a half to 2 hours for a horror movie. Doesn't overstay its welcome. And you don't need to overstay your welcome with horror. You tell the story you want to tell. You give some scares along the way. You use some nice visual trickery, some nice cinematography, and you get out. And that's exactly what they do in this movie. I thought, in terms of the way it was edited, the way it flowed, I wouldn't have took a single scene out of this. I couldn't believe it was over when it was over. When they go down that sort of... And by the way, I don't know if you envisaged this when you were watching it. See that actual cavern they go into? Do you not think that was representative of the womb? Of the human womb?
Yeah.
But every time he goes back out with coins, he's buffed again. He's got a chance to step away and don't do it again, but he keeps coming back. It's sort of corruption, greed. Just I thought the way this story was written, it was very intelligent.
I never really picked up on that, John, but I think you're right.
It's very intelligent. There's a lot of double entendre stuff going on in there. Meanings.
Yeah, there's a lot of double this one, but I don't know. I mean, I do understand that on the whole, he didn't have much of an arc.
Yeah.
The character in terms of a very drastic change.
It did at the end though.
But I thought there was some a subtle change here and there in the sense that when we started off him as a kid, he was just horrible. I mean, he actually when he asked his brother to go and it's like, I cooked it, you go and serve. It showed a kind of disregard for his little brother. A lack of protection of him. He didn't seem to grieve so much over the brother's death. But at the same time, in equal measure to that, although his greed is so overwhelming, he does kind of keep the promise he made to his mother. In that many years, he never went back until she died.
Yeah.
So, which means that he did value family to a certain extent, and which I think was the little bit of redeeming quality in his character. The second also was, when he takes his son and he shows him the I mean, he led a very indulgent life.
Yeah.
He gave his mistress also, like all the money when she took the money from the pocket, and then she saw that there wasn't anything left and all that kind of thing. But when he brought his son, he showed him where he had stored all the leftover gold, and it showed that he had kind of set aside something for his family in case something should happen to him. So that shows us a slight sense of concern for the future and welfare of his family. So that kind of redeemed him a little bit. And also the ending when he came to within him and his son, he felt the need to protect his son and sacrifice himself, which I thought was huge for a very selfish character who, was like extremely, I mean, didn't feel that kind of, emotion towards his younger brother at the younger age, but somehow along the line has developed, I mean, the way, how harsh he is with the son, the way, he punches him and he steps on him, and you would think he has
John
no
Lennon.
love at all for him, like it's a piece of, like he is just another way for him to get the goal. It seems as if it's that, but then later on, when he actually sacrifices himself, that I thought showed a little bit of a redeeming quality to his character, and also the fact that he had that emotional when his friend, even though he knew what would happen to him, and he kind of shed some tears when he saw the friend in the sun, and kind of burnt him because he didn't want him to continue with his suffering. So I think those are the things that are reflected, that slight redeeming quality that he had is what I think made it such that when he died, it's like the son kind of showed him that same mercy that he showed the friend. It was reflected in him, kind of being burned. And I'm not really sure, but the ending when the son doesn't actually want to take the loincloth, I think that is the lesson where that greed, that cycle of greed, that has plagued this entire family generationally, kind of was ended at that moment. That was the lesson learned. At the end of it, the son valued the relationship with the father. He would have rather had that back for all his greed that the son had, and all the innovative ideas he came up with to try to get the money, and how instead of saving, he went after the gold and all that when they were in the cave. It just shows that even for him at the end, there was a redeeming quality that maybe now he wouldn't that he would live a life maybe that's not plagued by greed. So maybe I guess in that sense the lesson was learned in that. So
absolutely, man. I think this story, the whole story, the core theme in this was greed. It was sort of choosing this lifestyle. Do you want to live a poor quality lifestyle, or if you have, it's almost like the Garden of Eden. The Garden of Eden, I can't even speak. The Garden of Eden, was that what it was? Adam and Eve. Are you corrupted by temptation in a sense? If you have a chance to go for something, even though it's wrong, will you take that chance? Obviously, the Vinayat character does time and again. He keeps going back to it, keeps taking more. He lies. He lives a life, an indulgent life, as you did say, Ruth. That's the key to this whole story for him. For me, the son not falling into the same pitfalls as the father, choosing the sort of correct decision at the end. And you're right. Look, I see the character didn't have much development because it didn't need it for me. But there is a subtle little things, as you did mention. The friend, I think it was Ragath. I think that was the name of the friend. What a fucking moustache, by the way.
Yeah.
I didn't quite like the haircut. I think that's maybe a ceremonial thing, shaving the head back.
Yeah, some of them, they have that kind of long hair.
That was weird to me, but the moustache made up for it. What a moustache. Also, that guy was corrupted as well. This guy's corrupted. He's trying to do deals with the British government that's also ruling the city at that moment. He tries to get his hands on the money, do deals. He gets killed because of it. Again, that's hammering home the pitfalls of greed, of that darkness.
It was his greed as well, because the other guy offered him, like, if you need money, I will give you, but because what he was going to be offered by the British guy was more.
Yeah.
So, until then he had been patient all along with him and a good friend and everything, but at that moment, even him, the greed was the downfall.
Yeah.
He let the greed get the better of him, that he betrayed the friend.
And also the father as well at the start. I liked the fact there was chapters. Chapter 1 was the story of greed with his father. They lost the father. There was no paternal sort of structure in that house. It was only the mother struggling to make ends meet. The grandmother's been afflicted with this Hastor. He's obviously getting into her bitter or whatever. That's how she's became this tortured soul. There's a burden. They've been ostracised from this town. They're living up in the sticks. He loses his young brother. There's a lot of loss. And that's obviously the key story in chapter 1 of how greed has corrupted this generation of the family. Chapter 2, it's the friend Ragath. He gets killed because of greed. And then chapter 3, I thought it was poetic that it was actually Vinayat that dies. He's the guy that dies. It's sort of close shop. The father's corrupted. He falls in the same footsteps as his father. And he dies. So that was the sort of 3 chapters of greed for me. And I thought that was a nice story. What was I going to say there, though? I was going to mention something. Ragath, what you were saying about the development of the character, Vinny, you're absolutely right. At the end, the fact he sacrifices himself for the son, I think was an important moment. He was quite a selfish guy. Slapping people about.
The story was, I don't know, for me, the story was also very, very poignant and very sad. It's like how this entire generation of, all the generations of the family, so plagued by the greed and the curse, that falls on them, all suffering that much because of their greed, because they couldn't bring their greed under control. The only one who showed an ounce of not succumbing to the greed within the thing was his Vinayak's mother. When she took the son away, because she really wanted to not have anything more to do with to cut herself off, although she was patiently by the side of her would say, for the lack of a better word, the guy who she was mistress of. She, what do you call that, she patiently waited that entire time when he was sick and everything, and took care of him and everything, in the hope that she would get that gold coin and hopefully get the secret to the treasure and that kind of thing. But then when she lost her son, she thought, no, that's it, I'm not gonna, she chose her child above the greed. And I think it's ironic that at the end, when they show the grandson, when he makes a decision that he loves the father more, that shows you that maybe he may have inherited a bit of her genes more than the father's greedy genes, so to speak.
Listen, bad apples can skip generations. So obviously he was a bad apple. It skipped. And she was probably right when she says, I wish you'd die instead of your brother, because the brother was probably the better person.
A nicer boy.
And that'll probably... Stephen, if you get anything to say about what we've been discussing there with the development, that sort of subtle development, did you actually see that subtle development with Vinayat? Because
didn't see it, no.
Actually, just speaking about it there, it actually does bring it in my mind that he did sacrifice, he did have that moment with Ragath in the cavern. There was subtle development points in the movie. If you'd like, incidentally, we've got a comment talking Bollywood. We absolutely are talking Bollywood. Yeah, it's a Hindi movie. Stephen, I don't know what you watched this in, but I actually checked there was 3 languages. I changed it to Tamil, then I'm like, what am I doing? It's Hindi.
Yeah.
It's a Hindi movie, so I put it back to the
Hindi,
native.
yeah.
And I did notice the difference. Ruth, you've said that before. The language Hindi can sound a little bit different. Almost the way they speak at times, it's a slightly harsher sound, a little bit more louder. I noticed that when I went to Tamil, it was different. I went back to Hindi, it was a little bit more, bit of fight in it. Did you notice that though, Stephen?
No.
No, you didn't.
No, I'll be honest with you. I didn't like the character from start to finish, and I think that the least thing he could have done was the very end when he sacrificed himself for his son. It was the least he could do, because I don't think.
But it was the son that fucked up. The son made an ass of it.
Yeah, but I mean, he's a kid, isn't he? I mean,
Yeah, no,
he
don't
was
get me wrong,
he was
I
getting into
didn't
something
like
he didn't know. He wasn't prepared for
The son was
mentally
a
or
bit
physically.
Yeah.
but
You know,
unlikable as well.
the father wouldn't tell him
I-
until he got into that pit. But I think,
True.
yeah, I mean, it's things that I didn't pick up on, but I just felt that there wasn't enough redeeming sort of characteristics there for me
I do
to
agree that there
to like
wasn't
the
an
guy, you know.
overwhelming redeeming
Very nice of
quality.
Steve.
Definitely didn't make me like him any better. Definitely, I didn't like him at all in terms of the nature of
Yeah.
what kind of a person he was, because he's so driven by greed that he just. I mean, he could have told the friend and saved the friend's life.
I
He
like
did
that
let
though.
him go
See, I thought
down,
that
and
was- yeah.
exactly, yeah. So that was a
I
very
like the fact he did
mean-spirited
that,
thing to do.
I'm not a
as
very
well.
forgiving person.
He taught him a lesson.
When it comes,
Exactly,
I'm
no.
very loyal,
all
so
that is all that is fine.
He
But
taught
what I'm
Rag half a
trying to
lesson,
tell
though.
is that there was some aspect.
Yeah.
I think only when he came to his family, he had a bit of that familial bond that he had towards the mother and towards the child,
And the mistress.
and maybe towards his wife, in the sense that he tried to leave something for them
I think
to take care of the
I think
thing. Yeah.
I think you can justify his actions in terms of his friend betraying him to begin with.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
know, and that two wrongs don't make a right, I suppose. But
Yeah,
you can sort of,
exactly.
if you're looking for justification and why he let his friend go down there
He did
in that
betray him,
fashion, yeah, you're absolutely right. I think he did the right thing in the end by just killing his friend, because he was obviously in a lot of pain attached to that womb wall
That
thing.
was,
I was-
yeah, Kevin.
that
still don't
that'll
know what
not
that
leave
is,
my
so
head
it's
for a long time.
Yeah.
That vision.
Oh,
of
well,
him,
that was
and
haunting, wasn't
it
it?
was terrible. It's just so disturbing. But
The makeup in this, the
that was
makeup work in this
fantastic,
is
yeah,
sensational, by the way.
yeah, definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a bastard. There's no two ways about it, Vinny.
Yeah, boy.
But he was open, upfront, honest about it. He says from the start, his
He
grandmother
did.
says, like,
Yeah.
instead, I love the dialogue.
Yeah,
The grandmother says to him, he says, Grandma, a tree grew out of you. I like that bit. He's laughing. And he says, not everything you can inherit can be claimed, son. If I don't, then someone will. You greedy bastard. It's my only quality. So he was upfront and honest from the start. He was greedy. It was his only quality. I can't hate someone too much if they're upfront and honest with their motivations and
Yeah.
what they're all about. So that was fine. Standout moments. I've got a couple. I liked the way they structured the whole sort of first chapter around this grandmother. They didn't show you for a long stretch.
yeah,
It was just sounds
yeah.
and dodgy breathing
and
and
then,
stuff
yeah.
like that. And then obviously Vinny tried to send his brother down. And we're almost living vicariously through the younger brother. We don't know what's going on here. We're watching him sort of tiptoe down nervously. And then when she gets out and he's furiously trying to make stuff, she's fucking attaching stuff to him and pulling screws out of her cheeks. It was quite it put me in mind that, it almost put me in mind of, though, see like the old school 1980s Willow.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
The sort of,
Yeah.
where it's that sort of style where it's prosthetic stuff and it's makeup work. It almost put me in mind of that
Labyrinth,
Willow,
yeah.
the Ron Howard movie, which I've only seen once incidentally, and I was far too late to see it. It was kind of like that though. It gave
Yeah.
me that vibe. It was like the old school way of doing horror.
Yeah,
You'd
yeah.
see it in like Blade and stuff like that as well, that kind of stuff.
Mm.
So I enjoyed that. That was a standout moment for me. We found out about Hasta through name.
Yep.
Commanded her to
Yeah.
go to sleep, and just it was fucking mental to me.
Yeah.
I says mentalness that ensues when she
Yeah.
gets out.
It reminds me a little bit of the Sorcerer's Apprentice, where he forgets the word, the incantation, that he is supposed to do, when to stop the magic from continuing, and
she knows it
they
as
have
well.
a few of those kind of tales. Yeah, exactly. When him trying to guess which name, and then she's like, "Have you forgotten the name?" That kind of thing. So it's like, just as she's about to eat him, it's
He
like,
remembers.
so I
It's
love
the fact
that.
he jumps
yeah,
out,
the
he jumps
entire
out his
thing
skin
was good.
when he's walking by
Yeah.
and she sort of like snores. He's like, shit. It was like one creepy look. And I
Yeah.
tell you, the same with the mothers cutting the nails. I'm like, I just do not
Oh,
begrudge
God,
you.
yeah.
I don't begrudge you, man. I feel very sorry for you. You having to cut those nails. You having to feed that creature. But Steve, what was your thoughts? Have you got any standout moments?
Standout moment for me was probably when they went down the dough bread, the dough dolls
first
things. No, the last time, because I never expected it. I thought, that's so obvious, that wee boy's cracked it, little boy's cracked it, and I'm thinking, why did he not think of that? Why did he not just take more food down for this demon? And then when he did, more of these demon things came out of the woodwork. And that freaked me out. I was like...
Yeah, it made sense. It was a metaphor for life that when you... like greed can multiply, you see, in the sense that because even the creature is driven by greed.
Yeah.
Greed for the food, you know.
Yeah.
So the moment you think to bring more to get more money... It thinks to multiply, like more of it comes forward because they all want the food.
Yeah.
So you know,
I've got a theory.
I'll tell you one thing though in that scene, and I don't care how much gold is in there. I would not be putting my fingers on any loincloths.
No chance. No chance. No, I can just imagine the smell of that thing. But well, it's been an eternity. It's been on it for an eternity. But I
wouldn't go down.
I would not have went in that place first and foremost because I view myself as being a pretty strong person. I've been doing weight training for over a year now. I did it in my 20s. I'm a pretty strong geezer. I don't think I'd be able to get up that rope quick enough.
John, I thought that I would be like,
I'd be fucking
somebody'd have
crying.
to pull me up.
Just watching what had happened to the grandmother would have been enough for me to not want to know anything about the story or the treasure or whatever.
But see what you've just said there, Ruth.
Work hard and earn my money.
See what you've just said there, Ruth, about seeing what happened to the grandmother. And I'm trying to remember his name. I forgot his name already. Vinayak. Terrible.
Vinayak, yeah.
The fact he was aware of what happened to the grandmother, and he actually says to his son driving out to Tumbbad, he says, what if you were given the opportunity to have eternal life? With all these riches, what would you take? He says, I'd take it, of course I would. It'd be a dream or something. I'm paraphrasing. He says, no, I know for a fact it's an eternal curse. He knew that, and he still sacrificed himself and put himself in that position for his son. So again, that is another example of why it kind of does develop. He's still a bastard. He's still battering his son about, but at the end he kind of redeems himself because he willingly gives himself over to that curse. What he's seen happening to his grandmother, trees growing out of her and stuff like that. What was I going to say? See for me, man, no, and I was going to say that as well. I've got about 50 thoughts happening at one time here. Did you strike? I've got a theory here. Hasta, is that how you say it? The sort of demon with the loincloth. I can't even say it. Loincloth. That's how much it haunts my dreams. That loincloth, and not want to touch it. Can't even say the word. He's supposed to be the sort of villain, the guy you're stealing money off of, but I have a theory that Vinayak is the actual villain in this movie.
Yeah.
Who it says here in my notes.
Was that not obvious?
Yeah, no, but Stephen's got a fucking demon that's literally
I thought that as a tragic figure, like a golem.
This demon has been sentenced to an eternal curse for choosing gold over food. It's eternally hungry. There can't be a worse fate for suffering with eternal hunger. For me anyway, I go a couple of hours without eating, I'm crying. What's worth that? I've said in my notes, who's worse, a greedy demon who chews gold over food and living an eternal life of suffering, or the guy that steals from him? Who's fucking worse? The greedy demon who's been punished for his greed, or the guy that's gone in and stealing off of the greedy demon? I'm like, he's got to be the villain. Vinny gets got to be the villain in this movie. He has to be. He is the villain.
Yeah.
He's beating his son up. He's a villain.
He's got a mistress.
And he's got a mistress. I'm not having a mistress. If he wants to do that, he wants a mistress, he can have a mistress. As long
he's
as
married.
I know, but Stephen, happens. Happens. Look at you, McLaughlin.
But you got to condemn that, John. Maybe a good guy.
Stephen, I can't.
But I've seen your reactions to what we've been doing during the week, John. I've seen other side to you. So on Squid Game.
Squid Game has shown me for what I am. I'm a sadist.
Yeah.
I sort of, But my standout moment wasn't the ending. My standout moment was the first time he went down. Because we'd seen him getting these coins, we'd seen him taking them back to Ragaff. We're like, how's this fucking guy getting these coins? Why is he only taking 2 and 3 at a time? What's going on here?
Exactly, I like the fact that they didn't show us, they just show us him finding out where it is, but then they don't tell us anything else.
Could have been digging.
Exactly.
And finding him. They don't realise he's pinching him off with a demon. That's what to kill him and eat him. So when we goes down the first time, I'm like, that's how he's doing it. That's how he's only getting a couple at a time. He's
I
having
like
to
the
steal
fact
them
that
off
they
a
didn't-
demon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the fact that they didn't tell us a lot of stuff, you know.
Yeah.
They let it develop, and for us to even the relationships between the people and all that, it developed, and then we figured out, oh, okay, there are two boys, and then that's the mother, and
Yeah.
then oh, okay, so obviously that is I mean, she's the mistress of the son, but that's obviously the man who's probably the boy's father, you know. So it's like all these things, they just kind of let you discover everything. The only thing they told you is about the legend itself,
Yeah.
but other than that they didn't tell you anything else. So I thought it was I hate it when they explain too much in a movie,
Yeah.
like as if they expect us to be dumb people who require a lot of narration or
That's why I
Exposition,
respect
yeah.
Ari Aster and
Yeah.
Christopher Nolan as filmmakers, because they don't hold your hand. They respect the audience.
Exactly,
Denny
yeah.
Villeneuve as well. They respect the audience to be intelligent,
Yeah.
and they know they're intelligent enough to sit and let it marinate, and it'll click. And look, man, that scene, I don't know for you, Ruth, what was your standout moment? For me, that scene was a standout moment on a visual level, on a story level as
Yeah.
well. It tells you
I
how he's
like
getting the
all
coins.
the-
The
yeah.
demise of Ragav as well, the brutality in that death.
Exactly.
He's stealing the loincloth, the coins. You're like,
Yeah.
that's how he's doing it.
Just
Scampering
the
up.
thought the way the entire thought of, you know, him going into the womb of
The belly of the beast.
entire earth is the belly of the beast, right in there to get just the thought of it is so I see, that's what it is. It was like so creepy in that sense, you know.
Yeah.
And
It's-
spine chilling or whatever.
It's the whole trap thing again. We spoke about it last week. Or was it last week or two? It was last week, wasn't it? The one in the hospital. That was last week, wasn't it? 2 weeks back.
That was
2 weeks back. That was last week. It was last week because it was the little. It was the mother and the little daughter
Yeah.
haunting her.
Yeah.
I spoke about it last week. What freaks me out watching movies more than anything is being trapped in a small space
Yeah.
with something that's what to get
I
at you.
have that problem as well. Yeah.
He was trapped in there.
My worst fear
Oh,
is to be
Christ.
buried.
Jesus, man.
See,
Oh,
you know, I'm thinking of
Hopefully.
things, you know, being in that sort of
they're back.
situation of being only one way in, one way out, I don't like. And
Yeah.
you're absolutely right, John. I think you have to have really good upper body strength to be able to go up that far up a rope
But he was
anyway.
a unit though.
The thing
He was
is,
a unit.
I was trying to think other ways. That's what I do. I try to go, well, maybe he could do this. Maybe if he's got enough salt, he could build himself a wall, keep going up.
Mm.
It'd take a lot of salt to do that.
Yeah, it would.
And
Yeah.
I don't know how that would work. But, you know, these are the things that cross my mind. I'm like, how's he going to... There's only one way in, one way out.
Cover yourself
And-
in salt.
I don't know. I mean, those little dough dolls were pretty... There wasn't a lot of food on them, if you know. if you
Yeah,
know
but
what
it
I
was
mean.
just enough the time to distract him and then
Yeah.
get the coins and then bugger off. I think that's what it was all about. I think he was putting stones in them as well to sort of slow it down.
Yeah, to slow down
To
the
slow him
chewing. So
But
you know,
see-
he was actually quite smart in that sense.
But when he was
buying
scampering up
some
the
of
rope and the top down shot of this Hastor chasing him up and he just gets it shot and sits in it.
Mm.
Fucking look, that's
I
enough.
like the way it looked at, you know, I mean, like the times when he was actually going down, the way they shot it, I don't know how they did it, but it looked more like he was climbing up
Yeah.
into something. And
It was as if he was sliding
and
out.
then yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then the camera kind of turned, and then
Yep.
you realize he's actually descending.
Yeah.
I love the way they shot that
Yeah.
that entire.
It was as
I
if
don't
he
know
was
how
coming
they
out
did
a
it, but
wall,
it
a
was
hole in a
so
wall, and he was coming along the floor, but he was actually crawling
Yeah.
down.
It was a good shot, yeah.
good.
And just if
Exactly,
that scene as well, that scene for me when you realise the salt stopping them, he's kind of taunting them, goading them, get out.
it's actually flour. I think it's just the loose flour.
Is it flour? Is that what it is?
All right, I
Yeah,
thought it was salt.
exactly.
I don't
Yeah,
know where
the
I got
flour,
that from.
the flour. Yeah, the flour from the dough.
Yeah.
It's just that the flour in its loose form
Yeah.
kills the thing,
All right, yeah.
but you know, dissipates it. But the moment it's fashioned into, he can only eat the thing if it's fashioned into
Why
Alright.
didn't he
that
just
kind
throw
of dough
the
boy.
flour on the demon then?
Because they need the money, Steve.
Yeah, but that would
They need
kill
the money. Yeah.
they would kill the demon.
They want the money. The whole point
Because
is to get the
that's
money.
how all of them
Yeah,
died.
right.
Okay.
Yeah, they have to keep. He has to keep. He needs one alive to keep going down getting money because he's a greedy bastard. This Vinayak guy. But yeah, that was a very impressive scene to me. That was probably my standout for me. And also the ending was an evolution of that scene. The sun going down, training the sun as well. I thought that was quite impressive. He was timing himself, climbing right up the rope. The shot of them in the bedroom, he's climbing up. To
Yeah,
the height of
exactly, and the
win-
best part is
the
that you don't hear him telling the son, "I'm going to train you for something." Or whatever. They just show us the scene where the son is doing everything, and then you know, okay, he's already started training
I
him,
couldn't believe it, man. I says,
yeah.
is he actually teaching his son to steal coins here? What is this guy doing? I thought Father Time had its wicked way with him, because it obviously jumps 18 years. I'm like, he's a bit older now.
Slowed down, yeah.
He's probably not as quick and not as strong. Father
Because
Time
the
has
last
destroyed him.
time-
But he was still good. So it was
Because
just,
the last time he went in, he was too weak to lift his body up and everything. So he realized that
he was getting older.
because he needs to also be quick. Because by the time he takes the money and he's going up the rope, he needs to be really quick because the thing starts chasing after him. So
I don't know why he didn't, but we now know why he didn't do it. I'm saying, I don't know why he didn't throw another one, because it split into two, John. That was at the end.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Explains it, yeah.
A little ball, throw it to them. Don't show them the little ball. Take it out and throw it as you're getting up. And then you're already getting up the rope. Just throw it. Fuck you, bitches. I'm away. But it was
Just
good.
make one big giant dough.
One big giant dough. Yeah. But how'd you get it down? How'd you get it down? Does it have
probably
to?
the hasta would be if you made a big giant
It'd be
dough
bigger.
ball, it might be the
A
thing
big
would be
giant
bigger.
Fucking
piece.
size of the size of the thing. And
Oh, dear.
but that one thing I had, did it have to be in the
No.
shape of a human? Why did it have to be? Because I thought at the
'Cause
start
that's
he was doing
creepier.
like a voodoo
Yeah.
shit.
I thought that was...
When
I thought
Ragaf
that-
was going
yep.
down, I'm like, this guy's doing something. He's
I thought
going
it
to
was a
bring this
voodoo doll
demon
at
out.
first, yeah.
Incidentally, I loved that scene. I loved that scene when Ragaf was hunting about and he sees him and he sort of stomps in the ground and he's watching him.
Yeah.
Love the fact he goes down. He's like, here, this is what I'm doing, bitch. Follow me down. And he's just like, you're
He'll
done
lose
for,
him,
bitch.
yeah.
And he says to him, I think he says to him, go to sleep. Or something like that. And it'll all be over. And then he burns him to a crisp. Like Aunt Beru and Uncle Owen in Star Wars. And if you didn't know I was a sadist, that was one of my standout moments in the original Star Wars movie when they get burnt to a crisp. So I'm a bit of a sadist. We've done standout moments, man. Technical stuff. I'd go into technical stuff just now before we actually get into performance, because I tell you, the cinematography in this movie was absolutely superb. Some brilliant wide shots of Tumbbad, the region I think it is, of a town, perpetually raining. Some amazing wide shots of the rain. I'd like that rain though, because the rain over here, it's freezing.
Yeah.
It's bitterly cold and it's raining. Over there it'd be warm and raining, so it wouldn't be as bad. It'd be like you're under a nice warm shower. I wouldn't mind it too much. Some nice time lapses as well. I like the time lapse shot of the front of the house. He's sitting on the sort of outside chair.
Mm-hmm.
They've just booted that young girl out.
Yep.
And then he's sitting, it turns to 1940 odds or
Yep.
1930 odds.
Yeah.
And it sort of changes like that.
1930 or
The
something
car
like that,
appears
yeah.
outside.
Yeah.
Some brilliant cinematography going on in here to capture Hastor, to capture the sort of, as you did say, Ruth, that him coming down and them doing tricks with the camera to sort of disorientate you. I was very impressed with the cinematography in this movie. I'm trying to find desperately who was involved in the cinematography. It was Pankaj Kumar, if that's how you say it, Pankaj Kumar. Done a great job. I says last week, you have to be intelligent with working the camera to create some tension, to create some discomfort, and they done a fantastic job with this.
Yeah, I thought because they said that the movie, apparently the color schemes that were used were just the blue, the coal grey, the red, and the gold, and then they used, most of it was shot in, it was all shot in natural light, and I think they used 50 lanterns and lamps in order to.
It says that for the end, Ruth.
lighting technique. Yeah, exactly.
At the end, when they're getting up, the father's getting up to sacrifice himself. There's only one lantern used in the entire shot to light the whole set.
Wow.
It's one natural light.
I thought it was So I thought it was very interestingly shot by doing all those things.
Yeah.
So it looked very natural, and the feel was, you could get that feel of the, I guess, just the believability of the entire thing. The fact that all the rain and the sequences were, and I think that's probably why he was saying right earlier that they took so long to do it, because they had to wait
4 monsoons.
the rainy season.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
3 years.
So that was
unbelievable. Yeah.
So, exactly.
Visual
So
effects
that's
as
quite
well.
interesting.
A
Visual
21-man
effects,
visual effects team,
Yeah.
a 5-man
I
special
love all
effects
the
team.
red.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love all
Loads
the
of
red, the red
Yeah.
on red, and it's different tones of red,
Yeah.
playing off each other.
Just the way they brought Hasta to life, I thought was very impressive. It was a very well detailed character. I actually searched it up, Tumbbad. They've created models of this character.
All right.
Little
Okay.
dolls, I'd buy one. It's a class
Hot
little
toy,
character.
Yeah.
Like the gold crown. Just very, there was, you thought that's a bit crap when you first see it, then
Yeah,
you
it
see
had
the
the bit
detail.
of that mummy feel
Yeah.
with the,
Yeah.
those things that will come, the soldiers
Yeah.
that come to this one. It also has that kind of.
It was almost like a Nubian, I think that's what you call it, isn't it? Sort of like Nubian stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
Very impressive. It was very well detailed.
Yeah.
It looked. It's, oh my god! I never even mentioned this. This is cinematography stroke visual effects. See, when they're trapped down there, the son and the dad, and the lights go out, and he flicks the match, and he turns it around, you can hear them.
Goodness,
And the fucking one's right to the side of him. Like, you shit. That would be horrendous,
sound
man.
editing, and talking about editing as well. That little factoid at the beginning, when this film was over 200 minutes long, and they've cut that down by half. It didn't feel like a film had been cut. And a classic example would be the Justice League, the Josh Whedon version. You know a film that's been cut, significantly cut, because it becomes very disjointed when they do that, when they butcher a film so much. In terms of this, it didn't feel like that. I thought it flowed really well. I don't see any missing scenes in there that were really pivotal to what was going on. There's not anything that goes, that jumps out to me and suggests that perhaps maybe something was missing that should have been in there. I felt they did that. I go on about editing every week. I felt this film was well edited in the sense that it flowed well. I don't think there was any continuity errors either. So I'd be very interested to see the full version of this and see. There must be reasons. I know that I did read the trivia on IMDb that there was massive rewrites. And that was part of the delay as well. And it was shot in
multiple dialects. I think multiple ad-libbing. It was ad-libbed about 4 or 5 times, because I think the main actor, I don't want to butcher his name, Soham Shah, was trying to perfect a certain dialect, and because they were shooting in the rain, the rain was interfering with the audio. They couldn't get clean audio. They kept ad-libbing it and putting voice work over it, and then he perfected the dialect, and they obviously did the final ad-lib. So there was a lot of work done in this movie in terms of visuals, trying to capture the rain, audio stuff. And what was I going to say?
Because the thing with Indian languages is that even though you have the obvious, it's Hindi or it's Tamil or it's Telugu or whatever, the thing is that there are regions in between where sometimes even the same dialect is not spoken exactly the same way. There will be variations depending on which region they come from. So sometimes, even though you see you're watching a Hindi movie, the dialect will be a bit more different from a mainstream Hindi movie than if you were shooting it in a different place where the dialect is slightly different, because then it would be native to that area. So in that sense, I can't always, I can pick it out where it's Tamil. I can usually pick it out in the differences in dialects, whether it's from Madras or from Uti or something like that. It's like everybody sounds a little bit different, and you can pick up. It's like English. If the person's from Texas, they sound different than if they were from California or they're from New York. They each, or Boston, they each have a different, the sound. So it's the same with the Indian languages as well. It's easier for me to pick out with the South Indian languages, but with the North Indian, I can tell there's a little bit of a difference in the type of Hindi it is, but I can't specifically tell which area it's from, but I can tell the difference. So like that, he may have wanted to perfect it from that area to make it more authentic.
I like that. I like that level of dedication it adds. It shows he's invested in the story. Obviously, I think that, if I'm not wrong in saying, there's 3 directors in this, but I think it was Anand Gandhi. Was that the guy that wrote it? Because he's the guy that sort of pops up in the right as well. He looks young as hell, by the way, this guy. Born 1980. He is quite pretty young. He's 41. That's young for a director, man. So this guy, he's obviously got his vision passed on to the actors very well. They're passionate about the story. He's a creative
director, so that makes sense, John.
So he's obviously fought hard. He's wanted to make this movie very good. He's wanted to make it believable. He's working on the dialect. See what he says about the editing, cutting it down for a 200-minute movie to 100 minute, 110-minute movie, 100-minute movie.
About that,
Very impressive. As somebody that's been editing a lot over the last week or so, 2 weeks, doing Squid Game reactions, cutting it down.
There's decisions to be made, There's
very big decisions to be made. That's just a fucking reaction on YouTube. This is a movie, probably a very expensive movie. To cut it down and get it absolutely perfect, make it flow like that, and you don't really miss a scene, and it doesn't destroy the story, the vibe he's creating. I think that's very impressive for the editor, who incidentally was Sanyukta Kaza. Sanyukta Kaza, probably butchered that name incidentally. But look, man, I thought technically this movie across the board was very, very well put together.
Yeah,
The composer,
technically
you
was
says
very well.
Jesper Kidd, the guy that worked on Assassin's Creed,
Yeah.
thought it was a very eerie
Yeah, it was a
at
good
times
score, yeah.
score. Very impressive. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed this movie on a technical level. I really did. Anybody else got anything to say
the
though?
technical aspects was really good. And sometimes, with horror movies, they can be very sloppy in the way they do certain things, They don't really put in as much effort sometimes. And you can see when there are mistakes that they're very jarring. Whereas this was beautifully done. It was like a piece of artwork as well.
Even down to the caves, Ruth.
done.
They went into caves that hadn't been inhabited for over 100 years in some cases to shoot some of the stuff. So there was a lot of dedication to visuals. The monsoon, shooting in 4 different monsoons over the course of 3
I think
years.
all the hard work really paid off because it looked really good.
Yeah.
It did. It was very impressive on a visual level. That's 2
I mean,
movies
just
now
for
have
the
been very
visuals
impressive.
alone, just for the visuals alone, you would give this like close to an A because of the visuals.
Technical
the way
level is
it
very
was,
impressive. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Just for the visual effects in that Hasta character, I'm looking at a photo of him just now. That's a hard thing, by the way. You speak about the bring that character to life, but the fact he's red, he's almost part of the walls in this sort of womb-like cavern. It's hard to differentiate that character.
That raw, because he's got that raw, not fully developed,
he's almost
kind of
burnt.
feel to him.
He's like a sort of a burnt and rotten sort
Like
of corpse.
he's been skinned or something.
He's like
that,
Red Skull from the MCU. But to differentiate that character from the actual walls when he's the exact same colour, I think that was quite impressive to do. That's not easy to do. Performances though, standout performer. Do we have a standout performer? For me, I do. It's Soham Shah.
I'm not. Okay. Obviously, stand-up performer, but I don't think he wasn't like standout in the sense that I don't think this movie had that kind of like this actor has got this gravitas and but I don't think it required it. I think that's the reason why it was more good storytelling and
It's a beauty of horror.
He did carry it out. He acted very well. Everybody acted very well. But I don't think it was one of those movies where you would say, "Oh, okay, you'll be watching it for the performances."
Yeah.
He's only acted in 9 movies.
John,
in his entire career.
I was going to mention that when you go on IMDb, there's hardly any photographs of these actors, which is
annoying.
very surprising. I think this is probably one of the very first times that we've did an Indian film where we don't have any familiar faces in the movie.
Yeah, it's because
well.
it's an off-Indian movie though,
Yeah.
Stephen, and I think the only other couple of off-Indian movies we've actually reviewed are Padmavat and Dangle, potentially.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
So we've been primarily South, so we know all the South Indian faces.
It is Soham Shah as well. I think it's obvious because he is he's the main actor in the movie, but that's not to do with the service to the rest of the cast. I felt it was more of a sort of team sort of
the mother at the start.
Exactly,
I don't think there was anybody that stood out too much, but I would say for him probably because he had the most lines, the most dialogue, he had the most screen time as well. And for that character throughout, for me anyway, I know you guys slightly disagree. I think that his consistency across the board was very important, and I felt that the actor carried that very well and convincingly. So for me, it's Soham Shah.
Just because his characters get green eyes as well. Green eyes, I've got green
that.
eyes, so us green-eyed guys have got to stick together. The actual actor hasn't got green eyes. I searched it up. He's got bright eyes. He was wearing actual contact sort of things. He was putting iris stuff on. I don't know what you call it. I don't need to do it. I've got emerald green eyes as is. I don't need to cover them up. Rarest eye colour in the world, by the way. 4% of the population have got green eyes. So for that reason alone, Soham Shah, Vinayak Rao was my standout performer, standout character. Final thoughts on this movie? Do we have any final thoughts? Shall I'll let you go first.
Yeah, it's very brief anyway, John. I thought this was a very consistent film, storytelling wise, acting wise as well. For me, the standout things that really meant a lot to me was probably more on a technical level. I felt the visuals were absolutely first class. They must have put a lot of funding into visual effects for this, because I thought the visual effects were very authentic looking. You talk about the practical effects, John, with the grandmother. I thought that was very well done as well. I know you mentioned Willow. I think it's improved on that, but it's the same techniques as you mentioned, for those sort of looks and the makeup.
Yeah.
The lighting, as Ruth mentioned, in terms of colour palette, was fantastic. I felt they nailed it for down in that womb. A lot of red down there, different shades of red, which I thought was very important as well. It gave it that sort of horror feel to it. And and I think the character, I've said this 3 times now, I think the main character was very consistent for me throughout. I bought into his way of thinking. I understood his way of thinking, condoned it, but at the end of the day, man's got to do what man's got to do for his family. I thought it was an interesting enough story as well. It's a very hard thing to do and keep the audience's interest going as well. I felt they did that from start to finish, and I think that part at the very start of the movie, the sort of mythology side of it, was very well handled, and it was very important for the story going forward as well.
What are you rating it, Stephen?
Do you want me to do my rating just now?
Yeah, just go for it.
Yeah, it's a C+.
A C+, I'll change it. That's a bit. I was hovering over a C.
The last 2 weeks I've did C, yeah.
C. Ruth, do you want to go first? Because I'm going to give my rating last.
Yeah.
I just feel I need to give my rating last.
Okay, for me, I thought it was an enjoyable watch. It was creepy, it was haunting, it was deeply disturbing, and very and in a way very sad, and in moments. And I thought it was a very well told original tale. It's an ideal story that somebody would share in front of a campfire, or on a dark and stormy night, that kind of thing. It had all those kind of elements to it.
Yeah.
I love the setup on the slow way in which the kids discover the old grandmother, and I like the way you had to try to figure out what the relationships were between the actors and everything. I like the fact that it's a sad tale of a curse on this family, and a tale about greed. That the moral of the story is that the more greed you have, the more it will consume you. So all those things, and whether or not wealth gain in this way is actually worth it. When you have so much to lose at the end of it. I love I love all the scary moments of the when she pulls out the spikes from her cheeks, and the blood falls on the
Oh, and him
the
again,
kid.
Red.
Everything, the entire scene, the cinematography was beautiful in a different way. I love the way it's so naturally shot. That all the lighting and everything was so beautifully shot, and the camera work was really good as well. I liked all of those things. And although there wasn't like that kind of outstanding performance to be said, it was more of an ensemble effort, and everybody did really well. But I think Somsha, I mean, he actually stood out in all of it. Yeah, so I really enjoyed the movie, and maybe because of the way the look of it, the technical side, together with the kind of enjoyable fun I had watching the movie, they kept me gripped from beginning to end. I would rate this like a B minus. Yeah.
B minus for Ruth. And I'm going to go last because I like to hear the sound of my own voice, and I like to talk last. I enjoyed this movie, man. I'm a fan of horror, a big horror fan. I liked the fact they did something different. It wasn't like a painted by numbers horror movie. You're in a haunted house sort of thing. They could have went with that. That's actually what I thought they were going to do based off of what I'd seen in the movie. I mind watching the trailer. It was a sort of roots. It was like the heart beating, I think, or something like that. I'm like, right, okay, it's like that. But when you actually go in and watch the movie, it's not like that at all. It's not. It's a fantasy story about human greed with the horror elements tacked on. There's a little visual thing to say, look, this is greed, what it does to you. Greed's bad. Don't be greedy. Don't be jealous. Don't be a bastard. And that's everything that Vinnie Yak was. He was a greedy bastard. He admitted it himself. His grandmother says, you're a greedy bastard. That was her words, not mine. I'm just saying what the grandmother called Vinnie Yak. He was a greedy bastard. But it was a nice story. I liked the themes that were explored in it. I liked the dedication for the filmmaker. I thought you'll bring him up right now because I forgot his name already. And Anne Gandhi, as a director, as a writer, he had this vision since he was 18 years old. The guy's 40 now, so that's doing basic maths, 12 years. 22 years. 22 years. 20. And this movie's 3 years old, so it was 19 years he had this vision for this story, and he said, I think you says he put the script together in about 8 months. And then it also took about 3 years to get it put into business. Is that right? A year it get put into business. shooting it, the dedication to the technical side of stuff. The performance as well, I like Soham Shah, I thought he was good. He was a cool looking guy. He was an absolute unit. He had the green eyes. That's enough for me to make him a standout performer. In terms of the actual visual stuff, I think the visual and the technical stuff for me was more impressive overall. And just the actual story. The story was good. I liked the themes and stuff like that. But visually, I'm a visual guy. I like the behind the scenes. That's what I'm into. That floats my boat. So for me, the story would be worth a C+. But factoring in the actual visuals and all that, actually, I'm going to give it a B- as well. Because look, you speak about technical stuff, and I like to discard the technical stuff and say, yeah, I like the technical stuff, I'll give it an A, but then the movie's getting a C+. But you can't do that, that's part of the movie. Visuals, putting the movie together, the visual effects, the cinematography, the score, the editing, that's all part of the movie. So that bumps it up to a B- for me. Story, C+, visuals, technical stuff, complete package, B-. I enjoyed the movie, thought it was very good. It was short and sweet. I like short and sweet movies. I'm a short and sweet kind of person. This is going to be a short and sweet end to the review. Anybody else got anything else to say? That's going to round up our review of Tumbbad then, from all the way back in 2018, when I was but a 29-year-old man, and it was happier days. Sadly now.
Wasn't that long ago, John?
Sadly now, I'm in my 30s.
Wasn't even 1,000 days ago.
That's going to round it up. Can you tell I'm having some real accepting issues, maybe in my 30s? It's just never going to be accepted for me until I go into my 40s, then I'll wish I was in my 30s. What is your thoughts on Tumbbad though? Have you watched this movie? Have you not watched the movie? Regardless, you should go and watch the movie. It was a good movie. If you've got any thoughts to share, you can put them down below in the comments section. That's where they belong. And you can also like the video, dislike it if you've hated it, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon to get more content like this in the future. That's how you enable it. But until then, regardless, whatever you do, me, Steve and Ruth are done. We're all done. The dog's done as well. He's not farted tonight. We should give him a round of applause. Bye-bye.
Bye.